Hello, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening. So we're going to go ahead and get started. First, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out to our courageous conversation. The topic is, what does it mean to be Black? If you don't know me, my name is Donzelia. I'm a senior here. I'm the VP of BSA. I'm actually stepping in for Christian who's unable to make it. So let's go ahead and get started with introducing our panelists.
So, hi everyone, my name is Joel Brown. I am a psychology major here at the University of Lynchburg. I am a senior and I'm also the president of Woman to Woman.
Hello, my name is Manuela Paki Amazu. I'm a senior biomedical science major and chemistry and music double minor, and I'm the president of the African Caribbean Union on campus.
Hi, I'm Marquise Armstrong. I'm a sophomore criminology major, and I'm president of NAACP.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jacob Jones. I'm a history major, sophomore here at the university, and I'm also the president of the Man to Man organization.
Thank you. So we can go ahead and kick this off. First, I have a question for our panelists. First, I'd like to ask you guys, what do you think it means to be Black?
Okay, so when I read this question, I had a lot of thoughts. But I think personally what it means to be Black is to be brave. Because we are in a country, as U.S. citizens, we're in a country where it was made to be against us. And so being Black, especially African American woman, it's good to be brave and strong and to show people that you can be more than stereotypes and you can break free from the discrimination. So yeah, I think it means to be brave.
For me, I feel like this question is kind of hard because, I want to have like a lot of pride in being Black, but I feel like my existence has mostly been surviving trauma and persisting through it. So I feel like, that's my answer to it. What does it mean to be Black? It means like perseverance through like generational trauma and systematic oppression. But even through it all, like achieving great things.
I agree with Joel. Being Black means like being strong, especially for a Black male. And I'm gonna talk about like going here since we did go to a PWI. Being Black, we don't get many opportunities as a white male or a person of color. We don't get like many opportunities to be excellent, like to strive. Because people look down on us most of the time. Like we can't succeed because of skin of our color. So yeah, being Black means being strong.
To me, being Black means being hardworking, strong, resilient. This country was built by us, but not necessarily for us. And even today, we still face constant roadblocks in all institutions, education, medical, you name it. So I think just being Black in America means being hardworking, resilient, and doing great things no matter of the constant roadblocks that we may face.
Thank you all. So we're going to go ahead and kick off our official questions, I guess. So the first one is, how do issues of colorism affect us today?
Personally, I think colorism in today's aspect really creates an unnecessary divide within the Black community. It really causes the Black community to just look at each other in like an opposition, when I feel no matter what shade of color is your skin, you really shouldn't be discriminatory against anybody in the Black community. It affects beauty, it affects education, it affects a lot of factors in the world. And I think it's just a very unnecessary divide.
For me, So growing up as a dark-skinned black girl, especially I remember in middle school and high school facing like a lot of trauma regarding like my skin color, and for colorism just within the black race. I don't know. It makes me feel like today, growing up somewhat insecure. I feel like I've had to do a lot of work to undo some of the negative aspects that I hear about it, and I think it's still prominent. I think that other races may partake in it as well, and I really feel like colorism comes from a place of like white supremacy, and because otherwise I don't see any justification behind beating down dark-skinned black girls, or like, for example, I remember like someone saying that, oh, because I'm dark, that makes me a man. Like they remove your femininity, for girls at least. The darker you are, but being more light-skinned makes you more feminine. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe you guys could speak more to that for how men experience that, but that's my experience.
Let's see. Yeah, it's different shades of color in the black community, range from light skin to the darkest you can think of, I guess. But for a man, I don't know how to answer that because I'm not too light and I'm not too dark, so I never really have to experience that. But it can put you aside from like different groups in the black community, because if you're in the middle, you might not fit in too much with the light people or the dark people, so then you're just stuck there like wondering why. But at the same time, I don't know, you should love your color the way it is.
Thank you. So, I think to speak on colorism, I think Manuela, you're absolutely right. In terms of like how men experience it, I remember like growing up, me being as light as I am pretty light for a black person, and I remember being asked all the time, if I was mixed, if I had white parents, and both of my parents are black, and people do add a more feminine aspect to lighter skinned people, by people just thinking that, I was quote unquote, I guess, soft in a way, and I guess wouldn't really put up as much of a fight, and people could disrespect me and walk all over me. And then on the other side, I have, some of my darker skinned friends who would, I feel, I guess, less attractive, or, just feel down just because of the color of their skin, and that's what they were born with, and they can't change that.
I was gonna say, I appreciate what you said, Manuela. I do agree, colorism likely is a roots from like Western standards of beauty. So yeah, that does create a huge divide for sure. Thank you guys. So our next question is, how do you deal with microaggressions on campus?
For a long time, I really didn't know how to address it, because they really don't talk about it as you come into the university, how to deal with those kind of things. But as the years have gone on, it's easier said than done, but it's always best to talk to administrative people, the people you live with, your friends, and also just to talk to the people who actually did the microaggression. Just getting it out there and not letting it, just letting it eat you up and keeping it in wouldn't work. So talking to anybody that you can, whether it's your advisor, your professor, anyone that you can think can make some change. I think that's one way to deal with it. But it's also kind of difficult because going to a PWI, these things slip mostly on the daily, and sometimes it doesn't even go recognized or even thought about twice. So it's kind of a hard question to answer, but I would say just talk to any administrative or anyone close to you that can make some change.
I feel like for me, now my fourth year on campus, like Jules said, you face I face microaggressions daily at this point. It's pretty common, I guess. For example, I remember my sophomore year, I'm in class, and this white girl starts touching my hair and undoing the braids. And I didn't even know what's happening until I felt something tugging on my hair. I'm like, don't touch me, but she didn't want to hear that, and she kept touching me without my consent, and it was like, and she told me like she felt like she had the right to do that, and I'm like, it was like, I don't know, I felt like, violated almost. Like, I know it was just my hair, but still, like, don't touch me. But thankfully my professor, I told her, and she was able to like tell her to stop doing that. And I just feel like, I'll just say that to say that I think it's really important for professors and faculty to be educated on what microaggressions are and how to deal with this situation, because like I'm not a fan of like speaking up for myself, but I've learned to do that over the years. But I feel like having my professor, and she was a white woman, and I feel like that girl listened to her better than she did me. Well, that's a whole different thing, but
Yeah, I agree with Jewel. Just talk to anyone. I mean, therapy helps a lot, because if you come off the situation, if it's happening, then you like address it. Then you might come off as aggressive to them when you're not really trying to be aggressive. So yeah, address it in like different ways. And if it happened more than once, then say something, and then figure it out by then.
So what, in my experience, a lot of microaggressions, they come out of, they're rooted in like stupidity, in my opinion. So I remember I had last year when I was a freshman, had this professor, he's not here anymore. He asked me in the middle of Spanish class if my hair was fake. And I've been growing my hair out for about 3 or 4 years. I worked hard for this. So, I think, and that night, talking, that's how I'm a commuter. I still live with my mother. So, I talk with my mom about my experiences on campus a lot. And I don't know if this is necessarily like, I guess the most healthy way, but, I guess like hold it in, like for a whole day. And then, I wait until I got home to my mom, like, you'll never believe what happened at school today, And, and like I said, just going back to my original point, microaggressions rooted in stupidity, you just gotta have to, I guess, laugh it off most of the time. Unfortunately, like I said, it may not be the most healthy way, but that's just how I personally deal with it.
Thank you guys. So, our next question is, what is the importance of Black liberation, leaders of the past to you? You guys should have questions.
This is a very good question, and I hope I can get this out right because it's a big answer. But I think the importance of Black liberation leaders, I think the importance is just paving the way for us to succeed, for us to get our voice heard, for us to finally gain just that little bit of equality that we gained, especially during civil rights, Malcolm, Martin, Huey. I think they're really important because, obviously in this country we were, not forced, but we were expected to just like not speak about it, or like to just not say anything, just keep it as it is. So I think them speaking out to what they believe, and they honestly, each one of them had various different beliefs, so it shows you that the Black community can be leaders in different forms. So I really think the Black liberation followers that we learn in school and the ones that we may not learn in school, because it just shows you that we can prevail and we can be better than what people have made us seem in the past, and so it makes our voice strong. And so yeah.
So I'm just gonna piggyback on what Jewel said about paving a way. So me, I'm Cameroonian and Togolese, and I know my mom and my grandma would tell me about how people like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and other like Black American leaders inspired anti-colonialist movements in Cameroon. And actually on my Cameroonian tribe, the Bassa tribe, we've had similar anti-colonialist leaders inspired by Black Americans, and like because of their efforts, I'm able to be in America and go to school and get an education and all that stuff. So it's definitely paving the way. And making me feel like I can do, I'm more than just someone to be crushed under by oppression. I can do whatever I want to do.
Yeah. Paving the way is great. We're here now, but to honor the past, we gotta honor the present too. So I would say Barack Obama made a big thing on the black community, becoming the first black president, and that shows like black males that you're capable of whatever you can do and stuff like that. But yeah. But one of the persons I mostly look up to on social media is Viola Davis, because she came from nothing and she's doing great for herself now. So yeah.
Yeah, so again, the central point of going back to paving the way and also education. So I think it's important that we all do research on these black liberation figures and, educate ourselves on them so that way we can pass on the teachings to the next generation. And so the generation after that can pass on the teachings. And just a continuous chain of teaching what these black liberation leaders thought and what they stood for.
Thank you guys. So, how do you maintain your mental health, and what are some racial and gender barriers to doing so?
So personally, I didn't start learning about mental health in high school. That's kind of how I became the psychology major, because I took a class in high school. It was intro to psych class, and that's when I really learned about mental health. And so learning more and more about it over the 4 years, I've learned more about wellness, and I would say to maintain mental health, write things down. Therapy, like Marquise mentioned, therapy is a huge way to stabilize your mental health. And the things that aren't so aggressive, like writing it down, or therapy, or just talking it out, or just listening to some music or going on a walk. So those are some ways to maintain mental health. And regarding racial and gender barriers, I can't really think of gender barriers at the moment, but racial, obviously within the African American community, and even so maybe the African community, mental health isn't really too much discussed. It's not really popularized, and so you don't really hear much about research on mental health effects with Black Americans. And there's always that stigma that if you need mental health treatment or you just want to go to therapy, that something's wrong, and that's a false stigma. Like, everybody has mental health, so therapy is needed at some point. And so, yeah, it just needs to be more invited in by our community. But yeah.
I feel like for me, unfortunately, for a long time I haven't really taken care of my own mental health. So I spend most of my time in my life and also at the university just, holding everything in. But that's it was never good. I'd always have a breakdown at finals or something like that. And yeah, and I feel like for me that comes from a place of I remember being told growing up you just have to be strong and you get over it. And it's that strong Black woman archetype where you just have to tough everything out and don't feel anything. Don't cry in front of people. Just have a strong face and you can do everything. And I just feel like I haven't been able to do everything. And I feel like my junior year is when I started going to therapy, and it's been very helpful. And it's kind of hard at the same time, breaking down walls and stuff like that, and trying to be vulnerable and confront, past trauma and deal with my feelings. But yeah.
I agree with you what you're saying. Stay strong, because growing up Black as a male, we're told to push down our emotions and don't show the vulnerability, and when we do stuff, I don't know. I can't express it so much. Therapy works. I don't know. I just recently started going. It's not that to be ashamed of, but last semester, my first year of college was terrible. I didn't do anything. I stayed in my room and stuff like that. I didn't do anything. I didn't get out. I didn't meet people. This year, I went to therapy. Things started changing around. I met some wonderful people up here with me today. I I'm involved in a lot. I would have never thought I would have held a visual if I would have stayed in the room. So that was something. The memberships I have, the positions I have today is great. So yeah, mental health is something you should really take serious. And on racial and gender barriers, I don't know. It's always all the same. So yeah.
So personally, to take care of my mental health, it all revolves around one of the most important people in my life again. My mother, definitely. But sometimes she has her own things that she's dealing with, and she can't always really be there for me. So what works for me, really, and I think everyone should do this, unplug, get off social media, definitely. Go outside. It really does work. Take a walk, just anything but being inside. And I know it's hard with the position that we're all in, and with having to be being on screens 24/7. I know it's hard, but just make time to do that. As for racial and gender barriers, going back to that whole boys don't cry thing, I think it's very toxic, definitely. And then revolving around that, there's another stigma with being black, that if you need help, you're crazy. But at the end of the day, it's important to remember that it's okay not to be okay. So, yeah.
You guys killed that. I like this. So, our next question is, what is the importance of Black representation to you?
I think it's important to have Black representation because I think it allows Black people to know about themselves better and to create a great identity about themselves, like a more strong, stable identity of themselves. Because honestly, growing up, so I'm from here, and I went to Timberlake. And growing up, there wasn't a lot of Black teachers. There weren't a lot of Black children. So, especially on TV, most of the characters, like cartoons and stuff, were like white, just like children. And so not having that representation of what is your hair, like the different hairstyles or like cultures, and not seeing that on TV in schools, it kind of made me search for my identity a little longer in life, because I obviously wasn't surrounded by people who looked just like me. So I think Black representation is important. It's hugely important because I think Black people are just allowed to know that there's people like them around them all the time, and that they have culture, and that their culture should be represented as much as anybody's culture. So yeah.
For me, I feel like I'm lucky to have my mom has a PhD in nuclear physics and focusing on semiconductors, stuff like that. So I mentioned that just to say it's important. I mean, it's been important for me to have her as a figure of academic achievement. So I always knew that I could go to school and go to grad school and get graduate degrees because she had that. But at the same time, I've never had a Black teacher that I can remember, and I feel like that would help a lot. In pre-med, I'm pre-med, and the culture there's something else, but I just feel like having a Black professor there to kind of mentor you in a way that white professors can, because I feel like all my white professors, my advisor, she's really good, and I like her a lot, and she's helped me a lot, but there's some things that they just can't understand as well as I feel like a Black professor would, be able to inherently understand when you're talking about issues you're having on campus or in class and things like that. Yeah.
Black representation means a lot to the Black community. Growing up, I didn't really have many people to look up to except for my aunt. She didn't really have we came from the same place, so it was the same. She went back to school and got double masters, I believe. And yeah, I look up to her a lot. So anything I have a question, I go straight to her and just ask her. She's there for me. Teachers are a huge thing for black students coming up, because when doing history, like black history, they can teach it better than, not saying this, but they can teach it better than a white person, because excuse me, they probably or most likely went through the same thing, and they know the background history of what it means to be black as well.
So having representation in the black community, I think it all comes back to positive affirmations. With, especially with children, you know, you grow up and you see all these high-ranking, you know, white figures, and it's like, I don't really see any black people. But having black representation lets those kids that have those dreams know that they can do that too. So, again, like for me personally, I would say the only black role model I had in my life, once again, my mother. So, you know, having her, just that one was really important to me. And I think once I got older, especially once I came to college, you know, you see black people in important places, and it just puts that in your mind that you can be what they are. You can strive for greatness. You can be great. You can achieve your dreams.
Thank you guys. So we're gonna go more on the lighthearted side of these questions. So what is your favorite part about being black?
I love being black. I love it. I think it's just like the community and the culture. It is so rich, and to know about the history that they teach us, and to know that we have such rich culture and diverse. You got the South, you got North, you got like Creole, you got a lot of stuff within the black community. So I think it's just like the rich culture that we obtained through all the hardships we faced, and to know that we just have like our own style. We just really can like come together, and it's just like a big understanding. So to have that close to your heart, it's really good. Like, yeah.
For me, I like the entire black diaspora. I like seeing the similarities that we have, even if they've been separated for a long time. And I like also the diverse culture. So I'm African, but I spent my entire life in America, and I really appreciate Black American culture. I feel like it's so complex. There's so many different things to experience. Because I feel like even growing up in America as African, there's things that I haven't experienced at home. It's like completely like I'll be back in Cameroon. So I remember like the first time I ever had like some Black American cuisine. I was like 18, I think. It was because I came from Lynchburg, and I was like experiencing Black American culture outside of the home. So I don't know, it's really cool. I love the music. I think my favorite thing is definitely the food, though.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Being black is, it's beautiful. No matter what anyone tell you, the shape, your size, what you look like, what color skin, how dark or how light, you're beautiful being black. You need to embrace it. So, yeah.
Yeah, once again, revolving around the culture. Black American culture, it's beautiful, it's amazing. And I think it revolves around making something out of nothing. So I think just personally resonating with that, coming from nothing, still attempting to make something out of myself, excuse me. Yeah, I just think that's an amazing thing, how we're able to continue to make something out of nothing.
Like the rose that grew from the concrete. Okay, so next question. What do you think is the biggest issue facing Black people today?
I don't know, that's a really hard question. I don't know. I feel like personally, I really don't know how to answer this question, because I feel like when people say, oh, what are the issues with Black people today? Sometimes I think like these issues that are being brought on aren't our fault. So like, why would we have to solve it? Like, if we're not like, if this is being brought onto us by our skin tone, color, what we do, like, history of the past, like, why do we have to, like, why do I have to answer to what you're doing to me? So I don't really answer to that question, so.
I feel like for me, it's trying to define ourselves within a white supremacist structure. Talking from like an African point of view, I know like Cameroon, their money is based on France stuff. They're constantly meddling in Cameroonian affairs, and you know, independence was in the '60s, but it's not really independent. And neither is Togo. And I know there's just so many issues. I remember I was seeing an article last week about why so many Nigerian presidents, not presidents, but people running for president in Nigeria are spending so much time in the UK, and it's because, again, they're the ones who control everything. And so I feel like for the African side, it's like the issues are still breaking free from the colonialism. I don't know, I feel like in America, still though, a lot of the issues defining ourselves within, you know, white supremacist structure. I feel like the colorism question from earlier, there's no reason for Black people to be defining ourselves on what Europeans think is beautiful. Because like when I go to Africa, like you're dark skinned, but it's like okay, but in some places being dark skinned is the beauty standard. But that's like completely opposite when from America. And I don't know, I just feel like, you know, I remember another thing I wanted to say was I feel like capitalism and certain exploitative economic structures are beating down not just the Black community, but frankly, the white community, and it's a class issue, but I feel like class issues are some of the main things as well.
Yeah, that is kind of hard because there's a lot of issues facing us. I would say racism because it's there. It might not be as loud as it was like back in the day, but it's still there. We would never escape that. So I would say that issue, but along with many issues, yeah.
I would say the biggest issue facing the Black community, I would say, me personally, it's having to feel like your whole community is being judged off of your interactions with white people. So, yeah. So for me, for example, you know, I have, you know, like I've had white people come up to me. It's like, oh wow, you know, you're so successful, you're so well mannered. Why can't they all be like you? And it's like, they can't be like me because they're not me. There's only one me. So, you know, just using me as, I guess, a representative for every Black person that you come across, you know, you're never going to find another me, you know, like Marquise is Marquise, Manuela is Manuela, Jewel is Jewel, Donzelia is Donzelia, you know, we're not all going to act like each other. So I would say that's one of the biggest issues facing the Black community.
Thank you guys. So, we're about to wrap this up. Okay, we got one more question. What is the impact of the appropriation of Black American culture?
I think the impact of the appropriation of our culture, especially with social media being like a vast outlet of that appropriation, I just think it I don't want to say it makes Black culture feels like a joke, but it makes us feel like you're not taking it seriously because you think you're appreciating us, but like you're kind of mocking us. And so having that impact, it just seems like, oh, you really just don't take us seriously, or like you just want to joke around, like this isn't serious to you. Like our culture just means it's like a second backhand, even though our culture is American culture. So like to appropriate it and not to treat it with respect, yeah, I just think it just has a huge impact on like the seriousness of it.
Okay, so as a music minor, like studying music, I find it interesting when you study like the history of it and everything, on how like Black music always starts out as like being denigrated as like something that's beneath other forms of music, but then later on becomes more popular, and then you have people like taking credit for things and removing, you know, benefits things that should benefit the Black community. And I just feel like it's a continuation of, I'm going back to colonialism, because they're like pillaging like this what Black people have and taking it for yourselves. So, you know, outside of music, yeah, one thing I find interesting is that I feel like a lot of the vernacular that young people speak today is mostly Black American vernacular, like that English. But I don't know, I remember in high school, like certain words being like, you know, people call you ghetto if you say those kind of words, but then now it's like everyone talks like that, and they all use it like really weird in really weird places, like it doesn't sound well, but yeah.
Our culture, many people are taking like the social media thing, especially TikTok, like the dances on there and stuff like that, and the songs that like they dance to, and non-colored people are like making it and dancing into it, and then like taking appreciation for it when it's come from somewhere else. They're not given that like their accountability to other people that really did it.
So I would say the appropriation of Black culture, it makes it feel like I personally would say kind of like a joke or kind of like a costume, because it's like, you know, you appropriate the music, the food, the dances, you know, the language, the trends, etc., but you don't necessarily want to you don't want to speak up and stand with Black people on Black issues, on Black struggle. So it's like, you know, it's like, okay, I want to be Black, you know, I want to be Black just for an hour, and then throw it away. So it feels almost kind of like using it as a costume, you know, playing a little dress up.
Thank you, guys. So, I think we're going to open the floor to the audience's questions. I'll probably bring the mic to you if you have a question. Yes.
You don't have to bring the mic to me.
Thank you.
So, what's your experience with like white friends who think that they're doing good but are just not?
Okay, so like I said, I'm from here, and the schools were basically like white schools. Like I went to Turley, I went to Forest, went to JF, yeah. So all my life I had white friends, almost, not like completely, but almost. And it just made me feel white friends, you can't, it's like you're not on the same level as them. Like they can be your friends, but they don't understand like what you really go through, or like your perspective of the world through like the Black girl lens. And so having white friends, not saying they're all like evil and they want to like destroy my identity. I've had some good white friends, but it's just sometimes like there's not that pure connection, because like they'll be off in their world and our world, like just my world, is just a whole different ballpark. Yeah, so that's kind of my experience on that. It's kind of shaky.
I feel like for me, I don't know, I've gone to like white schools my entire life as well, and I don't know, when I experience like racism, like blatant racism and then microaggressions, you know, sometimes these white friends they don't want to confront, like if it's their friend that was the one who called me the N-word, that was happened in high school a lot, but whatever. If it's their friend who did it, you know, they don't want to, they're mad at me for speaking out about it, like I'm the problem, I would side with the person who, you know, assaulted me or whatever. And so you have that, but, you know, you also have like Martin Luther King Jr. used to say like the white moderates and stuff like that, who would just tell me to like, bro, just calm down, like it's not that big of a deal, like yeah, that person called you an N-word in front of the whole school, but you know, it's like it's okay, like don't get too mad about that. But it's like, I don't know, like I don't want you to tell me to calm down when things like that happen. Like and then those are those kind of friends. But then I've also had the kind of friends where like they'll use their privilege to help me. For instance, like when I've been harassed by the police or something like that, I can count on like these friends in particular to be there for me, and then the police will like leave me alone just because they see, she has this white girl that's with her. But
from elementary school to middle school, my first best friend was white. So, and like as we grow up, we learn like different views of life. So we're not friends no more because our views was like different than what it is. And where I'm from, I went to Randolph Henry. It's like hours of in the country. So down there, it's like different. The music we listen to, it like has a lot of the N-word in it, and I don't know. Some black people from there, they'll let like their white friends say it. But me personally, please don't say it around me. With the household I grew up in, it was like don't let anyone say that to you. Like it's like disrespectful, which it is to anyone saying it. But I don't know. The black community, we use it, but we know. I don't know. It's kind of different when we use it with each other than because we come from like the same thing, so it's kind of different. But the friend situation thing, everywhere I go, I don't know. I try to get with my people. I mean, that seems like harsh, but it's where I fit in at. So like that. But in college, I mean, I have a variety of white and black friends in different races. So it's been fine for me.
So with white friends, especially growing up, I would say we really grew apart as we got older, and it's like trying to think about how to, I guess, like reconcile that, So it's like I don't even know like where to begin, like when having that conversation, and when the time comes to have that conversation, are you gonna understand? And honestly, 10 times out of 10, you won't, because you're not black. You never will be black. But at the end of the day, just trying to have, I won't say like-minded people, but people who you can depend on is important.
Thank you all. Is there any other questions? Yes.
Yeah, I hope you can hear me. So I was in a meeting earlier today, and the topic of the discussion, or part of the topic of the discussion was what type of community are we here at the University of Lynchburg, and what steps are being taken to make this more inclusive, more welcoming, and particularly around the question of students of diverse backgrounds. And some of the guidance that was given, or at least conversation, was when you see somebody alone, say hello to them. Do you see a student from a diverse background, make sure that they know that they're welcome, smile and say hello. That kind of feedback. And it really left me with the feeling that that really minimizes and doesn't allow the conversation to enter the room of what keeps us from being a truly welcoming and diverse community. That if we're treating things at such an esoteric level of saying hello and making sure that somebody's smiling at you, it doesn't get us to what's happening at a predominantly white institution for students of color, particularly for black students. And I'd be interested in your thoughts about that.
So you're asking what improvements can be made, or
No.
no?
I'm not asking you to solve it.
No, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying that in that conversation, the recommendations seem very simplified. And if taken at that, just surface, we will never be an inclusive, we will never be a welcoming, we will never be a diverse community, because it's all esoteric. It's all at a surface level. So, your thoughts on that?
I think for Black History Month, if it was more, so like, I'm not saying the teachers need to like wipe off their agenda or whatever, but they like bring it into their classroom, like the events going on campus and stuff like that, it would get the word out more to the students. Because we have a good enough black students on campus to come out, but I feel like some of them fear coming out, so that's one of them. And I don't play sports, but the athletes, we have like colored athletes. We don't really see them. Oh my gosh. We don't really see them like getting acknowledgement of what they do. So that could be one way to improve. Like we're equal, just showing they're like accepted and stuff like that. So.
I don't know. I feel like just saying like hi to like non-white students on campus doesn't like that's okay. Like that's whatever. But like I feel like there's definitely more to making people feel welcome on campus. I feel like I mentioned earlier, making an effort to hire like black professors would be really cool. That'd be like it shows that there is a place for everyone here, no matter what your skin color is. And professors who are making an effort to like squash like microaggressions in class, like they're ready to address that head on and don't like just ignore and put it to the background. I think those are things that actually matter to me more than just telling me like hi when I'm walking somewhere.
I'm getting to one more thing over here to you. The events on campus, I'm gonna say this, I'm not trying to be rude. They're more centered around white people. So, black students are not gonna come out of that. Like, let me think of like a paint and sip, like that's cool and all, but most I'm sorry. But most black people is not gonna come out to that. It's I wouldn't even come out to that.
Going off what Marquis said, I remember it was me and Jacob and I, we went to like a little Family Feud event on campus. But and it was a good, like Family Feud was great, like we love Family Feud. It was a great game, but the questions were more evolved around like other culture, white culture. And I'm saying like it can be diverse to other cultures too, like there's obviously other cultures other than black and white. But it was just so like, it was a monopolized questions like about their culture. And we were just sitting there like, we didn't know these answers, like we do not know. And we were just sitting there like, and there was just a lot of like tension, because there was one team, like our team was mostly African American people, and there was another team, it was mostly white people, and the hosts, it just kind of felt microaggression, and you could tell that they had less patience with us than them. So kind of going off the events, just making sure they're culturally evolved around all cultures. Like I said, not even just white and black, like just all cultures, not just sticking to like a basis of like the music and the style and the decorations and whatnot. So yeah, and to also put, also to add on to that, OEI is making like most of the cultural decisions. So to have help from like people who have like the more funds and the more like connections to do so, like because we are centered around inclusion and equity, but having help from other places too, so we're all not just like bearing it on our backs, would help to show that like, yes, we recognize you for doing this for equity and inclusion, but we're also here to help and we got your back. So yeah.
Yeah, I think I would have to more agree with what Manuel has said. It goes back to that question that I answered with the goal of positive affirmations. Have more black professors, more minority professors, to show that the young adults that are minorities, that, I want to say this without not being disrespectful, but show young adults of minorities that they can be more than a groundskeeper or serving French fries at 2 p.m.
Thank you guys. I was gonna add my little 2 cents if you don't mind. I like the point that you made about it being like more so surface level, you know, hi, how you doing, are you okay, yeah. That can only go so far realistically. I feel like a lot of it comes down to, like Black people on this campus or coming to this campus, they need support. And like they need to be proved too that there is support most of the time because they're coming into an environment where it seems like nobody looks like them, nobody acts like them, like, yeah, so it's like more so a game of like where do I fit in over your course of like 4 years. So like with that, I feel like what could be done is like creating, not that you're asking me, but like creating a more inclusive environment literally for people to like be who they are. And I say that because I feel like, I'm speaking for more so the Black community, I feel like oftentimes like we're expected to assimilate into like white culture or like what white standards are, like we can't play our music too loud, or we can't play this kind of music, or we can't make too much of a commotion over here in a group where people are going to think something's going on, like little things like that. Just a space to flourish and be ourselves without like backlash or, you know, looking down upon, being looked down upon. But yeah. Thank you. Dr. Canada?
Sure. Several of you mentioned about going to therapy. And I'm just curious, are you seeking therapy here on campus? And if not, why?
No. Not currently. I did last year, my whole junior year, but not now because I kind of do that at my internship. So that's fine.
Yes, I do go to the counseling center, like at the university.
I go here as well.
I don't go to the counseling center here on campus, and I personally feel it's just, I feel like there's not enough hours in the day for it. I feel like I'm busy 24/7, and you know, when I get home, again, my mom is kind of like my therapist. So, you know, I'm doing homework, writing a paper, such and such, I can just talk to her, you know, but, you know, it's something that I've thought about, definitely, but, yeah.
You should really take time. And the therapist thing, being Black, I don't know, you get a Black therapist. Because white people, I mean, white therapists are good too, but if you're Black and you're looking at a Black therapist or any person of color, that's like, you'll be more welcoming, opening, and sharing your thoughts and stuff. And then looking at a white therapist, because, you know, I might be judging you, but the therapist's job is to judge you, but like, different judging, yeah. Okay.
I was gonna say that for me, I feel like, yeah, so my counselor at the school is white, right? But, I don't know, she's pretty cool. Like, she, like, when we started, she, like, understood that there's gonna be a learning gap. Because when I'm talking about, like, issues that I face within, like, my own culture, I have to, like, explain to her certain things. But it's, like, cool because, like, she's willing to learn. And I feel like the willingness to learn and understand from another culture's point of view makes all the difference, especially when we're coming from different places.
Okay. Yeah, I used to, when I went in my junior year, it was okay. It was also more my schedule. Kind of like Jacob, classes, working with OEI, I kind of like had narrow hours in between. So it was just that. But other than that, it was fine my junior year. But, yeah.
I don't know if you're asking me, but yeah, I previously have, but I have not. Previously, I found more so issues with, like they mentioned, not having options or like people of color, or I don't even know if there's people outside of Black people and white people that are an option. But yeah, I know they're making changes like now, attempting to, so that's cool. But all in all, I need to go back to therapy, honestly. Is there any other questions? Yes.
I'm just wondering, what do you do to affirm your identity, because my daughter, when she was in grade school, she went to a predominantly white school, and she shared later that a lot of the kids would talk about her, and one of the most painful instances for her was when they would run out of brown crayon, they would say, oh, let's just go swing on Goddess skin, and use that for the color. And she never told us, but later on she did, and for her what she had to do, she said she needed to go to an HBCU, she wanted to go to school, to affirm her identity at her work. And I just wonder what do you guys do to affirm your incredible work? What do you do to help yourself feel and know that you're valued?
I kind of agree with your daughter. HBCU would be a dream. This school gave me a lot of money. So, but I would say like surround yourself with your own community. I know it kind of sounds off-puttish and not want to put you in like a bubble, but like also going to very white schools, finding your people and finding people who are just like you, your characteristics, like down to a T, surrounding yourself with a strong group of people will immense your identity so much. And then also, like social media now coming into play in the past couple of years, having that media like that's surrounded by Black people, because there's Black journalists, Black magazines, like on Twitter, just Black pages. So upkeeping with that and just keeping a tight-knit connection with your community, I think it really helps. And to talk to various people within the Black community, because like learning about how we're different, whether it's skin tone, culture, just learning more and getting the opportunity to deepen your knowledge, I think that will also help your identity. Because I mean, if you know nothing about yourself or your community, your identity is going to be really like wavy. So just getting in touch with your community, I think will really help.
I feel like for me, yeah, definitely back on what Jewel said, participating in affinity orgs, spent a lot of time doing ACU stuff, and I feel like that's really helped me because as president it's my second year being president of ACU, I've had to force myself to learn more about my culture and also learn more about Black American culture as we do collab events and things like that. So, I mean, maybe you don't have to be president, but I think that'd be pretty cool. But, like definitely joining the orgs and like, I feel like that helps foster an environment, especially, if there's not that many people who look like you at a PW.
I would say getting your foot in the door. Going here, I don't know, my identity is pretty strong. Most people know me. So, I mean, I'm trying, I have 4 brothers and 4 sisters, so I'm the second oldest, and I want my brothers to look up to me and be like, he did it, so they got a strong role model. With the organizations thing, yeah, I'm president of one, vice president of another. I'm on a board of SGA, and the ambassador. I know it seems like a lot. Sometimes it do be overwhelming, but I don't know, you just gotta keep pushing, gotta keep up every day, just get there. But when you get your foot in the door, just don't forget where you came from, and your background, don't change, just be who you are.
Yeah, it all comes back to, for me, it all comes back to surrounding yourself with those who are like you. So for me personally, soon, I remember it was over the summer before I started here in August 2021, I reached out to the NAACP chapter because I knew I wanted to be around more people like myself, because I grew up in Appomattox, Virginia, so I feel like that had really been stripped from me. So, but I knew that I wanted to be around people like me, like when I came to college. So I would just recommend that, for any student that has lost their sense of identity, is to come into OEI, get associated with the affinity orgs, and I think that's a good place to start.
Thank you all. Do we have any other questions? Well, thank you guys so much for attending. for coming out.
Make announcements about upcoming events.
Upcoming events.
Upcoming events, yes. Let me look at the calendar because, for Women to Women, we're having a vision board night on the 7th of March. I know that one. Where's the calendar? Okay. I should have done it one second. Tomorrow night, we're having a screening of Glory, which is going to be in the Hopwood Auditorium from 6:30 to 9:30. That's going to be led by the art department, the art and history department. Unmarked on Saturday, also the history department is going to be at the Academy Center of Arts, and they're going to be screening Unmarked. Next Monday, it's going to be Blackout Day, so we're all black to represent Black History Month and just celebrating the month. And Black Jeopardy Night, we are hosting that on the 22nd. Just a fun night to learn more about the different cultures. I know one's like music, church, and food, so fun time to just play a little game and learn more about American Black history. And yeah.
We also have a crisis conversation on the 23rd about microaggressions, like going more in depth on that. GSA is doing a movie night on the 24th for Moonlight. Oh yeah, and we have a gospel concert on the 26th, so that's pretty cool.
I think and that's
And that is all.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank
by the
you guys
way.
again.
Thank you guys for coming. Have a good night. I need my headlight. Hi. No problem. It's good to see you.
Have you turned it off?